more concerned with his intellectual autobiographical construction, it would probably be best to go for Beyond the Boundary. Because then you will have a very clear idea of how he saw his intellectual formation. But he says that he was a British intellectual by the time he was 10 years old, because he was reading so much British literature. He was also obsessed with Vanity Fair. He read Vanity Fair dozens of times, apparently. He used to read it
more than 30 times.
Yes.
More than 30 times by the age of 14.
Yes. Okay, right. So, but then of course, after he becomes a Marxist in the United Kingdom, there are a different set of inspirations, you see? So, Beyond the Boundary would be a good way in to start to think about the many things that influenced him and the ways in which his intellectual formation worked. To your question at the end, I was very absorbed by the different moments that you were bringing to bear. The thing I took the most out of it, though, was the question of the role of middle-class leaders in the black middle class. And I think one of the things that's very interesting about both James and Fanon is that a hemisphere apart, almost at the exact same, in the exact same year, 1960-61, they fashioned critiques of the black middle classes and the middle classes that are going to take the post-independent nations into independence. And I actually use that as my frame for the introduction I do to a couple of the readers that I'm currently editing for Ian Randall Press that were mentioned by Eric. I'm in the process of doing what is a multi-volume work on Caribbean intellectual thought. It began with two readers. One was supposed to be in Caribbean political thought, the other was supposed to be in Caribbean cultural thought. It's now become a four-reader project in which there are two readers in Caribbean political thought and two in Caribbean cultural thought. Okay? The readers in Caribbean political thought were also supposed to be out this year, and I have killed myself to get those things into the publisher in October last year. But other things emerged, like the fact that Ian Randall Publishers had published a number of books about Jamaica's Olympic champions, you know. Yes, so the dedication to the one, Caribbean Political Thought, Theories of a Post-Colonial State, reads, to the people of Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica on the 50th anniversary of your independence. So it's supposed to come out in August of this year. It will now come out in early 2013, but you know, I mean, these things happen. But one of the things I did is I actually read these two essays. Fanon's well-known critique, of course, from The Wretched of the Earth, and James's less well-known essay, The West Indian Middle Classes, which again I can send you. I have all these things as PDF, you know, and stuff, in which he really excoriates the West Indian middle classes, and he says that these guys have no imagination, have no intelligence, they're very vacuous in terms of their own image, and we know what the future is going to be if these guys take control of the state, and that is in the ugly news. On to Achille, and to conclude also, there's a lot there.
Why don't you say touche?
Nah, I did not say that. I mean, why is the Caribbean so central to black critical thought? Well, perhaps that's the last thing I could come to. When you talk about C.L.R. James and the object of his thought being the world at large, I think, and actually this is partly an answer to that earlier question. There is, I think, a radical cosmopolitanism that we see in figures like James, like Nissan, like Césaire, in which they're very internationalist in their scope and vision. And they see the world, or the possibilities of the world, all as part of them in a, I mean, we're also talking about very elite formations and also very elite institutions, which are guiding them towards certain, let me see, certain kinds of moments. I mean, in terms of the schools that some of these guys would have gone to, like Queen's Royal College in Trinidad, there are these cluster of elite Caribbean schools that are in many cases founded in the 1700s and 1800s. I mean, the high school I went to in Barbados was founded in 1733, okay? It's been consistently a high school there. And there's one that was published in 1694, you know? Even though I intend to go in the records and prove that they were not founded in 1694. I believe that's actually, it's a school rivalry thing, that's I'll have to deal with in due course. But the point is that there are a number of these elite schools that were producing, yes, a culture of very, I mean, the intellectual formation there is incredibly Eurocentric, but it's also incredibly rigorous in a particular way that kind of allows somebody like Eric Williams to go to Oxford and become first in the first class honours roll in his particular year at Oxford because, again, of this particular colonial education. But the radicalism of these figures is very tied to anti-colonial moments that they became immersed in. The fact that they are in the milieu of cities like London and Paris, in which so many conversations they're able to encounter, they're able to participate in, that move them further and beyond often some of the provincial nature, some of the Caribbean realities that they were versed with. So I think there are all of those kinds of things which mean a lot for figures like James, like Césaire, like Lissant and others, and are one of the reasons why they're able to make this particular movement forward. In terms of the question of love and freedom and the love of freedom, I scribbled here when you said that, another quote from James is Beyond the Boundary, in which he said that the ends of democracy are a more complete human existence. And I think that there is that yearning and that push consistently for a more complete human existence that you'll see in James, that you see in Césaire. I mean, on Césaire, I tell everybody now in the last year or two about his collection of poetry, corpse per view. I'm lost money. Oh, you know it.
Corps perdu.
Yes.
Yeah.
I who Krakatoa, etc., yes. And it's a really remarkable collection from 1950 at a point in which Césaire realizes the limits of negritude at that early point, and he suggests in many of those poems that the blacks may be alienated from themselves still, despite this whole edifice, this house called negritude that he has created for them. And I think that it's really important to understand that we're only now starting to plumb some of the depths of the insights of black critical thought, you know, and of Caribbean critical thought. There is so much more to encounter, and there's so much more to engage with. And yes, I think that is where I'll end.
Yeah, I think we should end.
Yes.
Thanks so much to you, Aaron, for a wonderful talk and conversation. To you, Keith, for just some contributions that none of us could ever dream of benefiting from in another context. It's really been a special occasion already, but we've got more to come. So we might as well pause now and carry on tomorrow. We have a meeting of those who would like to talk about some of the readings that have been circulated by James tomorrow from 11 to 1 in this room. And then Keith will present on the Pan-African, on revolution. Tomorrow, World Revolution, mind you, at 4, and we'll organize that in exactly the same way, but switch it so that Aaron will start off the conversation, and then we'll invite you to join us. Please pass the word and say that this is a special opportunity that may not come around in quite this way again, and that people should take advantage. So once again, thanks so much. There's food and drink outside, so we can spend a bit more time socializing. Yeah, about that. We'll lay
as we say in Manchester.